tuning into this month's news video. Today we're going to talk about some really easy ways to address some common causes of back pain. We're going to start out today with some different foam rolling techniques. So you're going to need a foam roller of your choice. Doesn't matter how big or how small it is, as long as it's big enough for your legs to fit on. The first thing we're going to go over is for foam rolling is going to be what's called our Piriformis. It's a small muscle that's in the side of your hips. Connects a lot of your muscles in your lower back to your hip joint. So we're going to start out with that one. You're going to want to sit right on top of your foam roller. You're going to cross whatever leg, so I'm going to pick my right leg. I'm going to cross my right ankle over my left knee. I'm going to lean to that right side just a little bit, and I'm going to roll essentially right over my glute muscle. So from the top of my hip bone, or where you can feel that bony protrusion, you're going to roll up and down all the way to the bottom of your sit bones or the bottom of your glute muscle. You're going to roll back and forth. You might feel some really tight spots. If you do, hang out there for a minute. Try and take some deep breaths. Try and relax those muscles. You can rock back and forth a little bit. Your piriformis is a really big one that can cause some impingements, can cause some sciatic pain. That's a super common thing for a lot of people. So addressing this is a big thing. And like I said in the newsletter, we want to foam roll before we stretch. So we want to loosen the knot and then lengthen it, just like when you untie your shoe. So this is how you address your piriformis. You can do both sides. So you'll just scoot over on the foam roller, cross your opposite ankle, lean towards that other side, and you'll roll up and down the same way. Depending on how tight you are, you might want to spend anywhere from 30 seconds to even up to a minute or two on each side. Your piriformis, you can do the same thing without crossing your leg to address more of your glute. So all the way across your whole butt, essentially. This one you can just cross your feet down at the bottom, rock all the way up, like I said, to where the top of that hip bone would be, right where you can feel kind of your spine start to poke out. Same thing, you're going to roll up and down, and you can rock side to side. Our next one is going to be our IT band. Your IT band runs from your knee all the way up into the back of your hip. This one tends to hurt for a lot of people. A couple different variations we can do. So you never want to roll over a joint. So we're going to start right above our knee. So if this is my knee, right above it on the side. We're going to start down there. This leg is going to be there for support. I can push off this top leg to adjust how much pressure I'm using, but I'm going to roll from just above my knee to just below my hip. So I'm going to roll all the way down. And same thing, if you feel a spot that's really tight or almost creates a burning sensation, you want to kind of just hang out there for a second. Take some deep breaths, roll really slowly. Same thing if it feels really bumpy or uneven. Hang out there for a second. I know it doesn't feel great, but really try and just relax and get your body to recognize that those muscles need to relax. If this doesn't feel like quite enough pressure for you, or maybe if your foam roller is not as firm, you can stack your legs on top of each other and do that same thing. Same thing, you're going to want to address both sides, so both your right leg and your left leg. You don't ever want to do one side. If one side is more tight than the other, you can most certainly spend a little bit more time there, but don't only do one leg. The next one we're going to do is our hamstrings. These ones are okay to do on the ground if you're just using a foam roller. If you use something smaller like a softball or a lacrosse ball, you're going to want to have a little step to use. Today we're going to go over just how to use the foam roller. So same thing, I'm not going to roll over my knee joint, so the back of it. I'm going to start just above my knee, and I'm going to go to my glute. So same thing, I could go one leg or both legs. If I go one leg and I want a lot of pressure, I'm going to cross that top, my opposite leg on top. Use your hands to support yourself. Then you're going to rock back and forth. You can also rock side to side. I'll show you from this view. If you don't feel like maybe just the center of your hamstrings made up a couple different muscles, so if you want to address all of them, you could twist your legs and kind of rock back and forth that way. Those are just some super easy, very common things for foam rolling that can cause some back issues. If your hamstrings are really tight, if your hips are tight, you might not be standing in great posture, so those are some really good things to start with. The next one we're going to do are a couple stretches. So for this one, you're going to want, you can use a band or a towel, anything that if you're at home and you don't have a band, a towel works just fine. The first one we're gonna stretch is gonna be our hamstrings. So you're gonna take the band or your towel and just loop it around the bottom of your foot. You're gonna lay back, straighten that leg out as much as you can, and you're gonna pull back, taking some deep, slow breaths. You're gonna hold on here, and once you've held this position for about 20 seconds, you can give yourself some resistance and push back against that band or that towel a little bit for about 10 seconds, and then relax, pull back as much as you can, trying to keep this top leg straight and trying to keep that top foot flexed. Same thing, you're gonna wanna address both legs on this. Be really careful to make sure that your lower back stays nice and flat to the ground as well. The next one we're gonna do is really common. It's called a figure 4. So for this one, I'm gonna show you standing. You're gonna cross one leg, your ankle, over the top of your knee. So just above that knee joint. We're gonna do it sitting. It's a little bit of an easier variation. So I'm gonna take my right ankle, and I'm gonna cross it over my left knee. And then I'm just gonna sit my butt down to the ground. Same thing, you wanna try and keep a straight back. You don't wanna be really hunched over. The more intense that you want this stretch, you'll scoot your butt closer to your heel that's on the ground. And then the other thing you're gonna wanna focus on is pushing whatever leg is on top. So in this case, my right leg, push that right knee away and towards the ground. You don't want it up close into your chest. Another one we're gonna do is a pigeon. Kind of similar, same thing, we're working on opening our hips, relaxing those so we can get into a better posture. You're gonna bend a leg underneath you. So I'm gonna do I'll do my left leg since I've done mostly right. My right leg is gonna come underneath me, and I'm gonna slide the rest of my leg and my body backwards. If it feels comfortable and if it feels right, you can lay forward. You should feel this hip and this stretch in the outside of your hip and through that hip joint a little bit. The deeper the stretch, if you want it, you're gonna wanna try and walk your heel straight out from your knee. So for me, I'm not that flexible. That would put me in this type of position. So if I want my knee on the ground, I've gotta tuck my heel in towards my center a little bit more. Another one that's super easy, it's called child's pose. So that's an easy one a lot of people know from yoga. You sit back on your heels and you stretch forward, trying to press your chest into the ground. So to stretch into your lower back a little bit more, what we're gonna do, instead of reaching straight forward, you're gonna reach one arm out and across to the other side. So I press my chest to the ground, and I'm gonna reach my my left arm up and to the right, and I'm gonna push my hips back to the left. So I'm stretching opposite. So front view, I'm gonna reach my left arm to the right, and I'm gonna sit my hips back to the left, and I'm gonna feel that stretch all the way up my side and into my lower back. So like I said earlier, you're gonna foam roll, and then you're gonna stretch. Ideally, you would have started with a little bit of a warm-up, whether it's walking or on the bike. You can stretch at the end of your workout or at the beginning. I like to foam roll, do a light stretch at the beginning of my workout, and then I do some foundational movements. So I'm gonna show you guys my 4 favorite ones. The first one we're gonna start with is a bird dog. So this is working on our cross-sectional stability. So if we're not stable in our core, our lower back is gonna have a tendency to take a lot of extra load. So for a bird dog, you're gonna be in all fours. It's called a quadruped position. So my shoulders are right on top of my wrists, and my knees are directly under my hips. My back is nice and flat. From here, I'm gonna extend my opposite arm and leg. So I'm gonna go right arm and left leg. We wanna try and create a super straight line. We don't wanna flex, and we don't wanna arch, so we're just reaching, and then we'll switch, reaching straight, trying to create those good straight lines. Hold those positions for about 5 or 10 seconds, maybe 4 or 5 on each side. And the next one we're gonna do, it's called a T-spine rotation. So for this one, you're gonna lay on your side. You want your shoulders and your hips stacked on top of each other and your knees at 90 degrees. So you're gonna lay on your side, you're gonna be stacked. I've got 90 degrees at my knees, and my hips are on top of each other and so are my shoulders. And I'm gonna open my top arm across my body and be facing the ceiling. What I want to keep in mind is that my knees stay on the ground, and I'm going to try and get this top shoulder to come on the ground too. So you're going to hold it for a second, exhale, close everything back together, big inhale and open, take a few breaths, try and relax into that stretch or that range of motion, close it back together, same thing, make sure you do both sides. Another good activation is called the Glute Bridge. So we're going to start on our back. Our feet are going to be flat on the ground, not tucked in all the way to our butt. We want a little bit of space. From here, we want to make sure our belly button and our core are engaged so our back stays nice and flat. You're going to put your hands on the ground. You're going to squeeze your butt and lift your hips straight up to the ceiling. You're going to hold and then relax. What you don't want to do is use your lower back or the momentum of the motion to start it. You really want to engage your glutes, squeeze from your butt, raise your hips, keep your core engaged, and then relax. This same thing is going to get all of those deep core stabilizing muscles that we want to be ready before we move to make sure we're not letting bad posture get in the way. The last thing we're going to do is an isometric movement. I call it an iso hold. So this engages all of our core muscles. Same thing, make sure that we're ready to get moving. So for this one, you're going to start on your back. Legs are going to go straight up in the air. Make sure your lower back is totally flush with the ground. I want you to draw your belly button in as deep as you can. You can support your head if you need to. And you're going to start to lower your legs. As soon as you feel your lower back come off the ground, or you can't keep your belly button in anymore, I want you to stop, raise your feet back up just a few degrees, and that's where you're going to hold this movement. So for some people it might only be a very small hold, for some people it might be almost at the ground. Wherever it is that you can keep your lower back totally flat. So we're going to start at the top, lower, 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 lower. Oh, I feel my lower back, so I'm going to come up, and this is where I'm going to hold that movement. If you need to bend your knees because you feel it in your hip flexors, that's totally fine, but that's a movement that you're going to hold for 20 to 30 seconds, maybe 3 or 4 different sets of that. Same thing, really focus on breathing, drawing that belly button in towards your spine. It's going to help activate all of those muscles. I hope that's helpful for you guys. If you have any other questions or any other things that you want addressed or to know more about that have to do with rehab or prehabilitation, please let us know. Thanks for tuning in.